Six Go Through the World by Jade Maître. The legend said that if any man should marry the giant Ysbaddaden's daughter, the giant himself would die. Ysbaddaden, enormous, hairy, and muscled like an old tree, did not want to die. He made himself fearsome. He refused to bathe, so that his stench would strike down everything for miles and miles around. Alone with his daughter in his fortified castle, he struck down instantly any man who presented himself at its gates. Far from Ysbaddaden, a king named Culhwch lost his wife. Driven mad by the sight of pigs, she gave him a son and then died. 18 winters later, the king found a new wife. She was eager to make a family of the son and said he would make a good match for her daughter. But the son, whose name was Culhwch, protested that he was too young, and offended the wife, blue with fury, cursed him. She said that in this case he would marry none but the daughter of the fearsome giant Ysbaddaden. In saying so, what she meant to say is that the probability being so unlikely, Culhwch would marry no one at all. But something rather different happened. At the mention of the giant's daughter, Culhwch coloured. His cheeks went the tone of musk as he felt a love for this unknown maiden infuse every part of him. It ran headlong through the veins of his body and tingled out to the very surface of his skin. His father, seeing him turn pink, asked, "Why are you that shade? Are you sick?" Still blushing, Culhwch said, "My stepmother said I would marry none but the daughter of the giant Ysbaddaden." "And do you want to?" "Yes," he said vehemently. It was not experience which spoke, but something instead like destiny. It made him more certain of his love for her than he had ever been of any of the real things in his life. The king knew how he felt, for he had once loved his mother the same. Culhwch staged himself in the manner befitting of a kinsman of King Arthur. He set off for his cousin's kingdom on a young, sleek horse, which playfully reared as he rode. It was magnificent, with decorated hoofs, a golden bridle and saddle, and hair brushed until it was glossy as water. Culhwch himself was also adorned in finery. He rode like a child of the sun. He carried 2 spears of shining silver, a honed golden battle axe with a diamond handpiece, and a gold-bladed sword which nestled into his thigh within a golden hilt. His feet were locked into golden stirrups. Draped around him was a fine woolen mantle of purple with 4 golden red apples embroidered onto it, 1 on each corner. And riding before him were 2 pale greyhounds, collared in rose gold. At the gate to Arthur's castle, the guards would not let him in. "If you do not let me in," said Culhwch, raising himself up in his saddle, "I will shout 3 times so loudly that it will be heard across the breadth of your lands. All the women in earshot will become barren." Surprised, the guards let him through. Culhwch entered the great stone hallway, marched through the merrymaking, and soon stood before the king, shining from head to toe as though dipped in gold. King Arthur saw something proud in his bearing. He rose from his chair and took him to a private room. "What do you want from me, golden stranger?" asked King Arthur. "I would like you to cut my hair," said Culhwch. Flattered, the king took out his instruments, for in his kingdom, when men cut hair together, they were binded for life. Sure enough, as he took Culhwch's fair curls between his fingers, he said, "I feel as though I know you, as though you must be my kinsman. Is it true?" "It is true," said Culhwch. "Then what do you seek?" "I seek the daughter of the giant Ysbaddaden." "Ah, that's a difficult path," murmured Arthur, "but I have more than 200 men in my knighthood. I will find you 6 companions who will help you in your quest." He gave him Kay, who could hold his breath underwater for 9 days and 9 nights. Kay could strike a man and make a wound that would never heal. He could become as tall as the tallest tree in the forest whenever he pleased. And when it rained, he remained dry, for the fire in his blood ran hot and would evaporate the water before it hit him. Indeed, in the depths of winter, his brothers would nestle into him to stay warm and alive. Arthur also gave him Bedwyr, who was the fastest knight in the kingdom to wield a sword, despite having only one hand. He gave him Cunthalig the guide, who knew every place as though he'd been there before. He gave them Gwir, interpreter of tongues, who could speak in any language, including the language of trees, beasts, the sea, the moon and stars, the wind, fire, earth, and many more besides. He gave him Culhwch, who was the best rider in his kingdom, as well as the best walker. Culhwch also had the talent of never having lost a quest that he had sought, and so it was kind of a lucky charm. And finally, Arthur gave him Menw, who could cast a spell so that they were invisible to everyone but themselves. So formed, this little army of knights set off for the giant's castle in the desolate mountain valley where Ysbaddaden's stench had killed every tree and bush, and nothing but stiff grass remained. Soon they saw the valley stretched out before them. It was green-grey and formless as a dream. A flock of sheep grazed on the stones, and there was no beginning or end to them. The knights walked for 4 days before they realised that they never got any closer to the fortified castle. Every day they set out was the same as the day before. On the 4th day, though, they saw an old shepherd with a bristled mastiff roaming through the furze and prickles. This dog, they saw, was something like a demon, for he had fiery breath, which he habitually exhaled when he panted, singeing the stones and evaporating the stiff grass to ash. Kay told Gwir to speak to the shepherd. "For you speak in all tongues," he said. "Find out why we cannot draw closer to the fortified castle." But Gwir refused. "I did not come here to go anywhere alone," he said. "We knights are better together." "Then I will cast a spell over the dog," said Menw, "so it will do harm to none." The shepherd was surprised to see them, but invited them home with his wife. They offered the knights a meal, which, after days of wandering aimlessly across a barren land, they were happy to share. When the dinner was eaten and the cheese was laid out, the wife stood and opened a box beside the fireplace. Out of it stepped a young boy with brown curly hair. "The giant Ysbaddaden has killed 23 of my sons," she said, "and I do not hold hopes for this one either." Kay said, "Let him join our knights then. We will be killed together or not at all." Pleased, the wife nodded. "But why have you come to this dreadful place?" she asked. "To seek the giant's daughter," Culhwch said eagerly. Just the thought of her had caused the blood to run to his face and to his limbs. He was dizzy with love. "Olwen," said the woman, "that is dangerous." Olwen, it was a beautiful name. Culhwch felt he would swoon. "Can we see her?" he humbly asked. "Only if you promise not to do her harm," said the woman. They pledged it. The giant's daughter Olwen was sent for, and she came. She stepped through the doorway wearing a robe of silk the colour of a candle, eddying and flickering as the most lively of flames. Around her neck was a noble torque of rose gold, and her hair was studded with precious stones, rubies, garnets, and sapphires. As though aflame with all this colour, her beauty was flushed, her cheeks a delicate pink against the exquisite pale of her face. Culhwch was sure that whoever beheld her would love her, and as he peered from the door behind her, he saw that white flowers sprang from wherever her strong feet had fallen. "Ah, maiden," said Culhwch, falling to his knees, "it is you I have always loved. Please come with me of your own accord, and I will make you as happy as you were born to be." Olwen looked at Culhwch and in that moment loved him too. Was it destiny, or simply his earnest gaze, his open heart, and the determination that he had shown to have her? "But, alas, I cannot," she said regretfully. "My father will die the moment that I am wed. It is prophesied. All I can counsel is that you go and ask him for my hand, and do whatever he asks of you. Whatever he demands of you, promise to get it, and we will soon belong to each other." The next morning the couple showed Culhwch and Arthur's knights to the gate and let them in. They found the giant Ysbaddaden, who was so surprised that he did not kill them at first sight, but rather believed himself to be dreaming. As he was eating at his breakfast table, he reached for his cutlery and said to Culhwch, "Use these 2 forks and raise up my eyelids, so that I may see I am not mad." Culhwch wedged the forks beneath his fearsome brow and nearly swooned at the stench of him, at the years and years of breakfasts which were embedded in his beard and the worms in his ears. "I wish to marry your daughter," Culhwch said. "Come tomorrow and I will give you my answer," said the giant. But as the knights turned to leave, he took one of 3 poisoned spears and hurled them at the party. Bedwyr, who is the fastest in the land, caught it and threw it back. It speared right through the ball of the giant's knee. His roars of pain rang in their ears as they retreated. Yet they honoured their promise and returned the next day to ask again. "My daughter has 4 great-grandmothers and 4 great-grandfathers," said Ysbaddaden this time. "As they are still alive, they will need to be asked. Come back tomorrow." Yet once again, as they left, the giant hurled a poisoned stone spear at them. This time Menu caught it and hurled it back at the giant. It pierced him clean through the middle of his breastplate. His curses rained upon them as they retreated. On the last day they entered the room cautiously, saying, "Don't throw any more spears at us." The giant Ysbaddaden agreed, and asked once more that Culhwch put forks on his eyelids to hold them up. And this time, before he could even draw near, the giant hurled the last of his poisoned spears at Culhwch, who caught it and launched it back, where it penetrated the giant's great rheumy eye. With his hand clapped to his blinded eye, the giant finally agreed to talk to Culhwch. "You may marry my daughter," he said, "but you must do it in the proper way." "I will," said Culhwch. "Firstly then," said the giant, "do you see that wild thicket that extends for 1,000 miles behind the castle? You must uproot each weed and burn the whole of it to the ground so that the cinders and ashes fertilize it. Then you must plough it. It can only be cleared and ploughed by a strong man called a maithen. He must come of his own free will, you cannot compel him. He must furthermore use 2 oxen of Culhwch, yoked together, also given freely. As you know, these oxen are so strong and so rare that they will be impossible to borrow. Then you must seed it with fine plants and flowers. This must all be done in one day. Only then will we have sufficient space for the wedding." "That will be easy for me to do, though you do not think it is easy," said Culhwch. "I am not finished," declared the giant. "Next, do you see that field over there? It looks empty, but it is filled with white and black flax that has not yet sprouted. You must find the white flax seeds and replant them in this field so that my daughter will have pure white flax for her veil." "That will be easy for me to do, though you do not think it easy," said Culhwch. "And then," said the giant, "you must find honey 9 times sweeter than usual, without drone or queen, to make braggot for the feast. You must locate the cup of Culhwch, as no vessel is stronger to hold strong drink, and it must be served in the horn of Culhwch. And you must borrow the hamper of Gwithne Longshank, which overflows with enough meat to feed the world. None of these people will give up their treasures willingly, but willingly they must be given, in order for us to have food and drink for the feast." "That will be easy for me to do, though you do not think it easy," said Culhwch. "Now for the entertainment," exclaimed the giant. "The harp of Terti is the only thing which may entertain the guests at a wedding fit for my daughter. This instrument is magical, for when a man pleases, it plays by itself, and when one wants silence, it stops. And likewise, the only possible worthy accompaniment is the music of the swallows of Rhiannon, which wake the dead and lull the living to sleep. All of these things are exceedingly difficult to find, and yet find them you must." "That will be easy for me to do, though you do not think it is easy," said Culhwch. "And lastly, I may not attend my daughter's wedding in such a state. Only the tusk of Ysbaddaden, chief boar, is fine enough to shave my forest of beard, but it will only work if it is plucked from the great swine's head while he is still alive. Then the tusk must be kept by Culhwch of Prydain. But I fear at the sight of the tusk he will become passionate about its ownership and will not release it of his own free will. And lastly, even after combing my hair, I will only be able to tame it with the blood of the Black Witch, who lives in the Valley of Grief in the uplands of Hell." Culhwch nodded to all of these impossible demands. "I have horses, and King Arthur is my kinsman. I will win your daughter, and you will lose your life." So avowed, Culhwch enlisted his companions, and Arthur and his 200 other knights were also of service. Thus it was that Kay became tall as the tallest tree in the forest, and located a maithen in one corner of the kingdom, and the oxen in the other. Culhwch the guide led Culhwch, the best rider with the best luck, to each of them, and using Greer's skills of language, they found the best way to be convincing. Once back, Kay became as hot as flame and singed the thicket from the earth. after which Amaethon tilled it with the oxen and made it beautiful. They also enlisted the help of one of Arthur's other knights, Cor's 100 Claws, to use his nimble fingers to locate the white flax seeds, and they were soon replanted in the soft black soil. Next was the challenge of food and drink. Menw cast his invisibility spell, and the knight snuck into the mystical hive with 9 times sweeter honey. Gwir spoke the language of bees and enticed the drones and queen to the largest, most pollen-heavy flower they'd ever heard of, and once gone, Culhwch took the honey and carried it back to the castle without them realising. Arthur lent them the use of his knight, Santhe Angelface, whose face was so beautiful that all who saw it believed they'd been visited by an angel. And in this way, he was able to take the cup of Llwyr, the hamper of Gwythneu Longshank, and the horn of Gwrgod Godothan in full graciousness, for the owners merely handed them over, as anyone would should any angel ask them of anything. Kay, peering over the clouds, saw that the harp of Terte was located on a distant island embraced by rolling seas as deep as mountains are high, with waves as rough and mighty as lions. Arthur gave them Osla Big Knife, who, guided by Canthalig, lay his knife across the land, where it transformed into an enormous bridge that let Bedwyr stride across it and claim it for the wedding. The swallows of Rhiannon were captured in the Echo Lands, when Menw once again made them invisible, and they were able to capture the birds easily with their fingers and transport them in a crystal cage that rang with their enchanting music. Finally, Bedwyr and Kay strode into the great boar's lair and removed the tusk for a razor. Gwir spoke the language of longing and trust to convince Cadw of Prydain to transport the tusk to the marriage, and he did. The Black Witch was found buried deep in her valley of grief, where she already bled harmlessly, for she had stubbed her toe on a rock. Menw, invisible, crouched behind her small foot and waited as the drops fell into his invisible chalice. Soon he had enough to groom the giant Ysbaddaden's unruly beard. As the prophecy foresaw, on Culhwch presenting the razor and the chalice of blood, the giant Ysbaddaden roared and demanded that he shave him. Culhwch began, but Ysbaddaden soon turned to bite the young man. This time Culhwch was prepared and shaved his skin down to the bone. The knights poured in and carried him off. Kay struck a wound that would never heal, and the prophecy was made. This is how Culhwch came to marry Olwen. Culhwch once again maintained his reputation for being the only knight in Arthur's kingdom to never lose a quest. And the knights of King Arthur saw love return to the land. The end.
Storyberries.